All right, call to order the Board of Finance special meeting of March 18th, 2024. Time is 7:03. We have with us Mike Anderson, I'm the chairman, Dan Smith, vice chair, Gary Anino, Carl Johnston, Lou Gingerella. Amy Friend is going to be seated for Sarah for now. Sarah's running a little bit late. And Winona is on, Berdine is on line right now. And moving on to item number 2, public comments. Anyone have any comment to start? I don't see any hands. We'll move on to number 3, correspondence. We received from Troy last Friday an email with answers to specific question board members had last meeting. Everyone get that? And I had asked him a question earlier today regarding the new position, the behavioral specialists, and what was the cost of outsourcing that kind of position in the last couple of years, if applicable, if it was just last year or the year before, or however many. And Troy was nice enough to email me back, and so we have that information. We can talk further about it. All right, you got to use your mics too, guys.
It says see chain below, but all I got is actual answer.
Okay.
Unless there was only 2 things on it.
All right, let me see if I open up. That's why I don't like this kind of Outlook. It just doesn't,
No,
it's
horrible.
not like
Agreed.
normal. Here, I'm going to screenshot it and text it to you all.
All right.
And this is an answer to your question specifically, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I just texted it. Basically, my question was, said, hi, Troy and Bill. Thank you for providing your answers to our questions last week. Please provide the amount we have spent on outsourcing for services that will be performed by the new BCBA this year and the last few years, if applicable. And we'll have, when Troy presents, we can discuss that a little further. Everyone get that text?
Yes.
All right, Sarah's here. So we can move on to reviewing the Board of Education budget. If anyone has questions they want to start with, I'm happy, or I can start, whatever. Anyone itching to start? Winona, you're only here for a short time. Do you have stuff that you want to bring up?
I actually got most of my questions answered by the reply email that we received last week from Bill. So I don't have anything additional that, I don't think I have anything additional. So I feel pretty good about where I was.
Okay, very good.
Though I'm not sure I understand this message that you texted us. The getting to the 184 minus 56 is 128.
Yeah, since we're on it, yeah, please, why don't you stand up and we can kind of. First of all, like, where's the line item that is generally speaking for those contracted services?
All right, so this is in the budget, it's line, is it 71? Was it 71 contracted services? I put in the email what line it is.
72.
72, okay. So line 72 in the current budget is the contracted services line.
Okay,
And so when I got your email, I did look back at the actual expenses for fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23, and then our prediction for our current year, fiscal year 24. Okay, so what I did was I added those three together and divided by 3, and I got an average of 184. 184,950. I subtracted 56 because 56 is what we still have budgeted in that line for fiscal year 25. And I figured that was a reasonable way to somewhat estimate an answer for you.
so basically it's a wash,
Well, I think
close to a wash.
I want to, like, since I sent the email, I just wanted to point out something else that I was noticing after looking, after sending that, is that I'm not sure it's a wash, because the trend, it went from 123,000 in fiscal year 22 to 193 in fiscal year 23 to our predicted of 237 in fiscal year 24. Now, the trend may continue to go up, and or even if it stayed the same as this current level and we're really at 273, now we're subtracting 56 from 237,000 and we're more like 181 of those services. So it really, it's hard to pinpoint exactly. But if you look at the trend, I think taking the average may have not really been a fair way to do it. It may be really looking at the trend.
Sure, I understand what you're saying. And that's important because obviously it is a lot higher number now than it was particularly 3 years ago. If you were to, and this may be a question for Bill, if you were to see all of the sublines under that, is that special ed contractual services?
It is, but it's not, there's a few other things in that line.
I'm wondering, what else
Yeah,
other than?
okay, so there's some money for physical therapy. We don't have, so we contract for physical therapy work. There's also, if we have to pay for an outside evaluation on a student, that's so complicated, we can't do it in-house. That is the line we would go to for that as well.
Okay.
So those are, I think, relatively minor expenses compared to the behavior kind of consultation we get.
Okay, so most of that budget is for the behaviorist.
Yes.
That you outsource.
Yes.
Okay.
What would you attribute the increase to? Why is it going up so dramatically over the last several years?
There's just increased behavioral needs in the student body, student population. It's not just specific to North Stonington, it's everywhere. There's just increased needs. I think it's a complicated equation, but I think partly it's due to some kids staying home during the pandemic and then not having so much structure in their early childhood lives and then coming to school. That's a small piece of it. It could be just societal differences, the different pressures on kids. There's a lot of aspects. There's social media. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I think it's a complicated equation and there's a lot of factors that go into it, but everybody seems to be seeing more behavioral needs across the board. And, every town, every state, the whole country,
Are you good, Lou? Are you seeing when you talk to people and other superintendents in other districts, are most districts hiring
Yes,
specific person?
Yeah, most are trying to hire a in-house BCBA, but they're hard to find. So if we can find one who's dedicated to us, that'd be great.
And Troy, I was looking at the notes from the meeting last week, and I think that we only had one line item that shows us the cost of adding the BCBA, and it was tied in with a 0.6 social studies and a PE teacher. Is that right? Do we know what the BCBA salary is rough?
Yeah.
It's 118. That's coming, it's in the,
It's,
it's in the superintendent, it's in the central
yeah,
office.
it's in central office line, the BCBA salary, and we budgeted is $88,000 is what we budgeted for that.
Okay, thank you.
Just as a point of information, just
Go ahead.
when we talk about adding another position and we talk about the cost of 88,000, we know there's going to be additional costs with benefits.
It may be, yes.
And I think it'd be helpful if we knew what the fully loaded cost would be.
Yeah.
Not just the salary.
Right. And
I mean, going forward is what I'm saying. I'm not.
yeah, I mean, we could, because, and that's somewhat variable because some of the people we hire are still on their parents' health insurance and they don't take our health insurance for a few years. And we don't really know that. And some people, even who are not, on their parents or on their spouse's health insurance and they don't take the health insurance. So, but you're right. I mean, we should look at the expense could be much greater than 88,000.
It probably will be, right? I mean, because it isn't just health insurance. There are other costs with employees.
I'm not the expert on that. Bill, do you have an answer to that? Other costs for employees?
Well, the taxes.
We're gonna do Bill with mic'd up tonight.
Oh,
Well, the other expense would be the employer share of taxes, and that's already figured in. Could we take a percentage of the total payroll? And the amount, 88,000 is already included in the total payroll. So the only additional cost would be if the person took our health insurance and dental insurance.
Right, but that additional cost, the 88 is on top of that, because you've taken that additional cost and put that into a different line item. Right?
yeah, the additional medical
Yeah.
and dental is in a different line if they take it.
But in the
Yes.
but the taxes as well, they're not in that 88. You've put that into a different line.
Correct.
Okay.
So the
Are you-
7.6%.
But you're saying, Bill, that it's in the budget. for
Right,
those
it's in the budget,
Right, but if.
but he's
position
right.
wasn't added, that other line item would go down equal to the amount of taxes attributed to that position.
Right, so it's 6.75% additional.
I do think you have to take into consideration that these are services that are being provided to the students in North Stonington, whether or not we hire our own or if we contract out. And so the thought here is even with those additional costs, we're going to be a little bit more efficient and save some money. And then hopefully as a result of having someone in-house, we're also going to be providing higher quality services.
I'm not questioning that at all. All I'm just saying is it's good to hear the total cost of anything that we do. If we add somebody that's doing something completely different. It's just identifying salary alone doesn't capture the entire cost.
Right.
I had some questions on the sheet where you had, where the accounts were merged with other accounts or yeah, that one. That was one that Bill did. So for instance, 73 was moved to 92. The Wheeler Sports Transportation. But that 65 was there was 73, there was $20,000 there for fiscal year for this year's budget. And obviously, there's nothing budgeted now because you're switching that to 92 to just the general transportation. But that only went up $2,000. Where'd that 20,000 go? Which it's budgeted somewhere else, Troy? Do you understand what I'm saying?
So are you saying it's $20,000 kind of missing that we didn't
Well,
budget? So we
yeah,
brought the
assuming
budget
that-
down by 20,000?
Exactly.
Okay.
You eliminated that
So-
category necessarily, but the 20,000
So
went
Bill-
to something else or?
Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we were looking at the year-to-date
Yeah, well,
numbers doing that.
when I'm moving the money. I don't have to say, well, I'm taking 20 from here and I'm putting the 20 there. I'm not building the budget that way. I'm building the budget on what we need.
Right.
I only need so much for sports transportation. And we weren't really using the co-op money. I could absorb it into the other one. So I just didn't move the 20 over because we didn't need it. So it went into some other lines.
I figured it did. I just wanted, if anyone else had that
Oh,
same
okay.
question,
And,
that's because it happened a couple of times.
right, it's not
you know,
dollar.
You moved,
I didn't take the budget for this year and roll it over.
20 grand in, general services contracts were moved to repairs, general repairs. But that budget didn't necessarily,
Well, that's been reduced a couple times
yeah.
for various reasons.
There was one that yeah, the telephone was the one I had the question on. And give me a second to find it.
Well, we had an old account called the gymatorium, which goes back to before we built the additions across the street. So it didn't make sense anymore. So I did away with the
And I don't disagree with you.
gymatorium phone
Oh.
and moved it to the high school, which is where it should be.
Right.
And we have a new phone carrier. So that was another line item that was built from the bottom up based on what we're currently being billed now.
Okay. So we have budgeted for 9,000, which is 1,000 more than what was budgeted in FY 24. What concerned me was the actuals in 23 were $21,000. So why is that budget line so small?
Because we've changed vendors.
Okay,
I did that this year. So it's now going forward. I'm basing next year's budget on the current bills I'm getting now
okay.
and, multiplied it by
All right.
12.
It was just, I was like, why are we took 5,000 out of this and
Well, that's-
we didn't increase this much more and we
Yeah.
paid a lot of money in 23.
Yeah, well, that's the reason we switched vendors.
Okay,
So we're saving what, about $1,000 a month on our telephone bill?
Yeah, at
About
least.
right.
all right, nice work.
Yeah, I'm gonna make myself stupid. So all them items that we just talked about that got removed and reduced. So that's extra money, say of, you collected $10,000. Does that show up somewhere else in this line that we're not seeing? In other words, did it get absorbed into something else? As far as it's something that went up? Am I saying that correctly to understand?
I think I know what you mean, but so I think the things we just talked about are things we actually reduced
Yep.
the dollar amount in the budget.
Okay, so now you got.
So we just-
You got an extra now sitting over here that you took reduced.
Right, so we're not putting it anywhere else. We're, like Bill said, we build the budget from the bottom up, starting at 0 in each line and add in what we need. So we're not necessarily moving money from here to here. These
All right,
movements,
so let me finish what I'm saying.
yeah,
This, last year's budget, you were allowed $2.
okay,
You reduced everything down by $1. So
okay,
this year's budget should start at $1 less until you add something to it.
right.
So that's what I'm having a hard time seeing is where you took stuff out of here, where did it go? In other words, your budget is increased. It didn't stay the same or decrease. It increased.
Right. So I think it's hard to pinpoint because we don't build a budget that way exactly where that went.
Okay.
But if you look at overall, and I gave you like the major areas where the big
Yep,
increases
I saw
are,
that, yeah.
right? And if you just look at those areas alone, it comes up to over $700,000. We're asking for 509,000 because we've been, I think, really efficient and reorganizing the special ed program. And so I think just the overall, I mean, Bill, at one point, you said this many lines went up, this many lines went down, and because we build it from the bottom up and we're trying to budget what we need. So it's hard to think of it as moving money from one line to the other because we don't really we don't build a budget that way. We build it from bottom up, putting what we need in each line. Sometimes it's more than the previous year, and sometimes it's less, especially in like supplies lines, the example I give about science. Well, they want different supplies this year than they wanted last year, and they're more money this year than last year. And,
Okay, that gives me a better idea. Thank you.
okay, yeah.
And I think it's just helpful if you look at the individual section summaries because there's so much going in all of the different directions. But like if you look at the end of row 51, line 51, that's an increase of 685,000. So you can see where the big swings are coming out in kind of, you know, more sophisticated chunks.
Go ahead, Amy.
All right, so I have a few notes here. Because I'm trying to get a bigger picture on where you're going with the behavioral therapist. So I know with the disaster of COVID, a lot more needs arose within the school behaviorally. And I also know the dynamics of education changed. You guys, not you guys, but like most schools around the country implemented, you know, the 6 hours that the kids are in school, they're using a lot more technology because that's what they got used to during COVID.
Right.
The teachers liked it, the kids seem to like it, but I'm trying to look at a child's day and I see a child's on the bus with their tablet for a half hour to an hour. They get to school, they're in this block building all day. They're surrounded by the white screens and the screens again. They get maybe 20 minutes of recess, gym class once a week. And then they get back on a bus and they either go to another facility until their parents get home, or they're on their bus for a half hour to an hour on their tablet.
Yep.
A lot of them.
Mhm.
And then they go home, mom and dad's tired. So they're either in front of the TV or on a tablet. I don't know about you, but if I were in front of a screen all day, I'd be jumping and probably kicking and screaming too.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, looking ahead, if we're dealing with kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, because they're the ones who are hurting most with these executive skills.
Yeah.
Are we every year going to need more resources in our schools? And the quick answer is yes. So how is this sustainable for any community? And how can we make changes for our children?
Right.
So that they can grow and live happy, healthy lives.
Yeah.
Without being in front of a screen.
Thank you for your comments. I totally agree with everything you said. And it's a real problem. And even some adults have problem with the amount of screen time that they have in their daily life, right? We want everybody to have a healthy, balanced and fulfilling life, right? A successful life. And I think we have to really have some hard conversations in the school and in the town and society as a whole about what is that best balance with all the technology we have available to us. And this is one of the reasons why we talked about, and I presented like a different vision to technology. But part of that is, we did have a lot of COVID money that we used on technology, right? And through grants, and we have a lot of Chromebooks now. So we have quite a few of them, even in elementary school, and we have to really start asking the questions, how and we using them, how often, and how many hours is a kid in front of a screen while at school? And we know like kids learn really well through play and just social interaction. And how can we expand those kinds of opportunities? Innovative instruction doesn't have to have anything to do with technology. It doesn't have to. It could. It could be artificial intelligence, right? But it doesn't have to be. So I think those are the conversations we need to have. But I think in terms of the vision, that we want our kids to be happy and healthy and productive and successful in their lives.
Yeah, there's no doubt there.
Yeah, but how do we get there best? And it may be what you're talking about, or at least a piece of it might be figuring out, what does screen time look like and how often is it?
So is this behavior therapist position, is it focused on de-escalation? Is
Yeah.
it focused on
Okay, so
IEPs?
yeah, so
How is it
all
helping our
all
kids?
of that. And just kind of coaching staff on how to handle behaviors. I'll mention this as an example because it happens in just about every elementary school where classrooms have to be cleared because a child is so dysregulated. Okay, that happens in North Stonington. It happens everywhere. It happens in every elementary school. In my career, I've had to restrain children because they've been so dysregulated and they could possibly hurt themselves. And I was specially trained to do that, to protect them and myself from being hurt. It's a last resort, okay, but it happens. You don't want to get to that point. And if you have staff that are really trained in verbal de-escalation strategies and just know how to position their bodies, and there's certain techniques that a BCBA can help our staff learn and be proactive and prevent situations like that. But we've had to clear classrooms this year because of dysregulated students. So every elementary school has this happen. And it's more common now than it was in the past. And I don't know every reason, but it's a complicated equation. That's where we are.
I do think it's important to mention that during COVID, every student had a one-to-one device. Obviously, we don't have a one-to-one device program at the elementary school. So certainly those kids have a lot of access to technology, but I don't want you to think that everybody's sitting at their desk at the elementary school with.
No, I know they're in front
With
of a
some
screen
sort of
a lot though.
They do
They
have screen,
learn
but
from the screen.
they do definitely have more than
I'm
one
just saying.
recess period. And of course, during their electives, they don't. And I do think that our teachers do a really great job at encouraging that age appropriate play. And while technology it's an important way of learning, it certainly isn't the focus or the idea to keep a kid in front of a screen, especially at that elementary school level.
Okay, so after this discussion, I'm looking at the technology budget. There's a lot more technology being added.
So we paid for that technology last year out of our non-lapsing account. And one of the goals of this budget was to fund it appropriately in a way that we'd like to see the education budget funded. So we have to replace our one-to-one laptops as they cycle out for our high school students. And so we've added that back in an effort to show what the cost of education actually is. Because, in past years, we've taken out technology, we took out instructional supplies one year, that sort of stuff. So this budget really shows you what we feel like it takes to fund education in the town of North Stonington. But you're right, there is a big jump because it just wasn't there last year.
So it's all new since COVID.
We had voted to start a one-to-one program and to fund that as we were going into COVID. When COVID happened, all of a sudden there was all sorts of money to fund that all across the country, right? Because every district had to begin to provide families with a way to continue to educate children. And so for us, this program grew so rapidly and we didn't have to fund it at all. because it was being funded through grants. But we had elected to start that program, as many other districts across the country had, and we felt like finally we had to sort of get in line with what was happening technology wise. And so now we have to fund that on our own now, but that was always the plan even before COVID.
All right. I'm just really worried about our kids being in front of a lot of technology.
Totally
and it,
understood.
pretty much driving their education. And I just want to know that going ahead, looking forward 5-10 years, that it's going to be sustainable to deal with everything that's coming down the line. So I'm just trying to look and see what else can we do to combat what's coming.
Yeah, I just add that a lot of the technology that we use, especially at the high school, is actually accelerating student learning and making it much more efficient, where teachers use Google Classroom to assign work, get feedback on the work way quicker than they could just like grading papers. And it's often more efficient, but we do have to balance that with what you're saying. And I think the screen time is a real conversation we need to have.
We have any additional questions based upon the presentation last week and what was provided to us by Troy last Friday?
I just wanted to thank them for getting us all that information so quickly.
Oh, you're welcome.
That was
Yeah, no, I
outstanding.
I
appreciate
agree. Thanks,
interest.
everyone.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff, like the list of everything, Bill, your comments on everything that was over more than 10%. I mean, that's just exactly what the board was looking for last week, and we appreciate it.
Well, I'll just comment that in future years, when you ask these questions, we'll be prepared to answer them.
Oh, this is not, it's
But
even better in writing, so.
yeah, but we won't have to do a special report, I don't think, next year. Because we'll be able to give you the answers when you ask them.
I do think that the first one the first page of your report would be a great presentation summary, like just from because we're sitting here from a financial perspective, right? It was like, here's our big increases, here's our big decreases, just helps understand it better.
Yeah.
That was really helpful.
Okay, good, thanks.
We're all set for now, Troy. I think. I mean, we're scheduled to discuss and determine what we want our budgets to look like this Wednesday. But we have, Troy here today, Bill here today, and then Board of Ed Chair here today. Is there, and Lou, you're not going to be here on Wednesday. Is there any appetite, now that we have the two budgets, to discuss what we want to see for the overall budget amount next year? Go ahead, Carl.
I'd be curious to see what the extra $82,000 would cost the taxpayers, or do we go and try and keep it flat by losing
Well, again,
82?
I don't,
Because we have,
unfortunately, we don't have Laura here and I don't know if, with this being her first budget season, Christine got pretty good at, plugging those numbers in.
yeah,
let's-
she could come up in a couple of minutes, but
Let's just say, so the delta we have right now is 81,755.31. If we have, because
go ahead.
Yeah.
So that delta represents if we spend all the additional revenue.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make it people, that's not flat.
That's not
The
flat.
town budget's going up darn near $1 million, 900,000, right? That's what.
The budget's going up, yeah, it's $910,002.51.
So based on the numbers we have right now, between the increase in capital, because we all agreed we were underspending there, increase in the municipal side and increase in the school side, we're $82,000 in addition to that 900 and change. I'm just saying that for the people in the airwaves, so they're all on the same page.
I'm sorry, I said the increase in revenue is $910,002.51. That's what we have to play with if we want to, if we stay within that, your budget, your mill rate stays the same.
We're $82,000 over that number,
Right, we're technically it's 81,755.31 over
which,
as we stand.
which if I remember right, usually when we have fought over this type of number before, we're talking usually a 0.2 mil change.
What do you think, 500,000 per mill right now?
No, 6,
Near 6?
like 6.5.
Mike, I got one other question maybe for Troy. The increases in your salaries and everything that are coming up next year, what would, any idea what that would be as far as, according to your, what do you call them, contracts? Do we know what that might be next year?
Right, it used 580.14.
So, on the PowerPoint, that I handed out, last week, the significant increases, the regular education teacher salaries, just those salaries increased by $374,361
Next year.
next year.
So that's gonna be added to what we.
No, I'm sorry. That's fiscal year 25, so that, what we would look to spend next school year.
Mhm.
That's in our budget that we're presenting.
Huh? Yeah, yes.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
okay.
Yes. In other words, knowing that we do this year.
Yeah.
And salaries is, you don't hire nobody else, are the salaries still gonna increase?
They are because of the teacher's contract.
Right,
will be
and
in
that's
the-
something we can't change from year to year. We
it's
can't reduce you
negotiated.
guys, we can't change it because it's in your budget.
It's in the contract with the teachers that was negotiated.
All right, so
So
that
we
amount
can't
would,
change that, but I mean, it depends. I mean, if you have fewer staff, then it's not gonna cost as much.
well, that's kind of where I'm driving, but.
Yeah, if
all
you
right.
have more staff, it's gonna cost more. And it really depends too on the step increases on the teacher's contract. Some people might be on the step increase. So if, or some people are on top step and they're getting less of an increase. So
Okay,
I think it is, I mean, it's a decent contract they got, when they negotiated. It was less than the state average. That what they got though, what they negotiated 2 years ago, well, last year.
thank you.
So I'm not sure if this is what Mike was asking, but I think you opened the door. If we were to ask you to solve for the 82,000, where would it come from?
It's on? Is it on? Yeah.
It-
I'd have to go back to the Board of Education because it's their budget. And they would have to decide, but I might recommend that they look at a few small items if they needed to spend non-lapsing funds on a textbook or something. I don't know if they would do that. I think there could be, there's,
Is Troy talking?
Yeah, he's gonna-
The mic's acting up.
goes in.
Oh,
and-
sorry.
I wanted to be at the podium anyway, so it's all working out. So what I was saying was, we're gonna have some staff turnover. Okay, we recently advertised some positions. We want to hire the best people, of course. But if for some reason we hire people on a lower step than the people that are leaving, there's some savings there. There's also some savings, Lou, if they don't take benefits and the people who left were taking benefits. So there's a lot of variability there right now. And I wish I could tell you definitely what the number is going to be. But what I'm telling you is there's a potential for a little savings with staff turnover.
Is our current mill rate is 28.9? Is it 9.9 or just 9? Just 9, right?
It's 9-9.
So I'm looking at like, say I think the mill's somewhere around what, 580? That'd be like a 0.14 increase.
So, and I know it's not formal, but I did receive a correspondence from the library today. And let's not lose sight of that ask in the fourth quarter of this year. So if you netted them together, what would it be?
And also in the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, Gary, I think that, I mean, obviously I understand where you're coming from, but both boards have made a decision that we don't want to think of them as netted together because that's why we separated them from the May referendum.
No, but it's my personal mission in life to make sure that the town is fully aware of what's in front of us for this year. And I mentioned that.
And I don't disagree with that at all, but
So I'm just waving the flag saying more to follow.
It's technically in the first quarter of next year.
I
Just-
understand, Gary. I do understand your perspective.
I have a question for Troy. Sorry. Is there any way to forecast, forecast what benefits will be going ahead, like say a 5-year out forecast of like retirements and how that could shift?
It's,
I don't know if you have, if you.
yeah, I think it's tough. What I can let you know is we're in a consortium at Learn with about 6 or 7 other school districts and for our health insurance. And what that does, it buffers us from significant increases, big jumps in a year, because there's a reserve that we have contributed to over the years.
So they do kind of help.
So it helps buffer a big increase. Like we're not going to get insurance going up 12% next year. And this year it's like 5.08 going up, which is a reasonable figure, so we have that in terms of projecting. I mean, we just go by what we have this year. We can look at how many individual plans, how many family plans, how many people aren't taking insurance. And then we can give it our best. Well, that's what we do base the budget on for next year. But it's really hard to predict. I mean, sometimes you hire teachers that are 23, 24 years old and they're still on their parents' plan bonus, but again, we only hire them if they're the best candidate, right?
Could I just get a little clarification? Who holds that reserve? You mentioned there's a consortium and there's a reserve being held by the consortium?
Yes. Yeah.
How
Bill-
much money is?
Bill's more the expert on this than I am.
So,
Just come right up to the podium.
We are self-insured through the consortium. So the reserve is basically it's reserve that pays any of the claims. So our insurance is, we're not like, we pay a premium and then the money just goes to the insurance company. So we pay the money into to Learn, who runs the program. Then as claims are, and then we contract with Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield to be in their network. And then as claims are filed, the money is paid from the reserve. So the money is not paid by the insurance company, does not pay the doctors. We pay the doctors from our reserve.
Okay, I'm just curious as to who identifies the level of the reserve.
Well, we have, obviously have insurance consultants
Uh-huh.
and based on the number of claims and the people in the group and they come up with a number.
The word, I mean, just is interesting in that who, and it's been determined that this is more economical than purchasing health
Significantly.
insurance.
Significantly.
Significantly,
Okay,
We were here when they switched like 3 years ago. It was 6 figures, maybe like 200, 300,000. It was high.
because as a group, we're all paying in. So if we have a bad year,
Mhm.
they're not coming after us. We get the same increase if Old Lyme has a great year and we have a bad year, we both get the same increase because we're in the same group and we're in the same reserve. We're being paid out of the same reserve.
Okay. We're using the word reserve. So that there's two different connotations there. One would be that you've identified an amount of money that you will have ready to service the claims.
Correct.
But then reserve, that is not a reserve. Reserve is when you've got in excess of that amount,
Well,
an
okay.
amount of
Not in
money.
the insurance business.
Yes. sort
Okay,
of
well,
like an
then
escrow.
it's semantics here.
Well, maybe, because in the true sense of a reserve, that means that there are funds held to meet any unexpected claims. So my only question is that the case? And if it is, how much is that? And where is it?
Well, it's part of the consortium, Eastern Connecticut, we have a group.
Right?
And
Is
the
that a
money-
separate corporation that does
Yeah,
that?
it's a
Right.
separate, right,
So they're holding the funds.
right. And it's managed by Learn, which is our area risk.
Okay.
And,
They determine the level of reserve necessary to
The
meet.
group does.
The group does.
And the group has a insurance consultant and, does all the figuring and 1 year, I think it was the reserve got high. So 2 years ago, there was 0 rate increase. And 1 year there was a 10% decrease 3 years ago because the reserve got too high. So the reserve drives the premium too. If the reserve becomes too high, so we've actually, when people who have regular insurance, their rates are going up, our rate went down. So,
In like insurance parlance, like if you get a claim, someone gets injured in workers' compensation claim and you have people that are actuaries are going to say, it's going to cost this much probably to make sure we cover this person. They got to take money out of their normal stuff and reserve it for that claim. That's what it is in insurance.
Right.
Okay. And at the end of the day, if you can settle it and for less than what's in the reserve, you can put that money back into your pot. But you can't play with it because it's reserved for the
For
claim.
that claim.
Yes.
Right.
That's the part, that's the technical word for it.
Right, exactly. Right. And the secondary might be that to compensate for any miscalculation, of what might happen.
Right,
you
that's all
build an
that's
unallocated reserve, and that's kind of what piques my interest is what level that might be.
yeah.
That's all.
So
That's
just,
all
Well,
goes in.
there are insurance regulations that mandate what level of pad you can have on your reserves. And group medical insurance is what we call annual renewable term. So every year, a new premium rate is set and a new reserve rate is set. And the actuarial projections are reprojected based on the census of the group. And as I mentioned, there are laws about how much of a pad you can actually have in your reserves, and that kind of dictates what the premium credits are for the following year. And if you get into a position where the claims are more than the premium, then there's a recoup mechanism in most of these consortiums.
There we go.
so we've been in that consortium for over 5 years at least. And I just want you to know that Bill's on a subcommittee and he's been advocating for us because we've been such a good member of the consortium where our claims have been pretty reasonable over the years. And to actually have us pay a little bit lower rate. So that may come to a vote soon. And we may have that moving forward. I don't know when that would take place, but we're advocating for that. And Bill and I have been arguing actually for that. And I think we're winning. But we'll celebrate when it happens.
Any other questions over there? You guys,
No, we're just tired of turning it on and off, so we're leaving it on.
okay, as long as there's no feedback.
All right, bye, thank you.
See you when.
Bye, Winona. Thank you. All right, so kind of how we did with, you know, we can have a meeting on Wednesday night and give guidance, or we can do it now.
I think we're pretty close and, you know, the town was pretty clear when they built their budget that for the last 2 years, when there was something to be solved, they took the lion's share of the solve. And that this year, they didn't want to take that approach. We're $82,000 away. I'd like to know what the Board of Education could do for it.
One salary.
Okay, so that's Gary is weighed in, Carl,
Same thing.
Dan,
The only line I could see going at the Board of Selectmen would be the snow overtime line. That would be a line that I would like, if the whole board would be on board with that, to see reduced. And if we do have a snowstorm that comes in, we're taking out the undesignated fund, for ask for appropriation and do it that way based on not taxing them on something that could happen. It's one of those one line items that you're prepaying on something you don't know. So it's either you're overtaxing them and then you get to move the money around or put it back to the undesignated fund. Or if you have that 1 year anomaly, you just take it out of the undesignated fund.
And do we know that amount?
Now, right now, it's at $40,000.
So
we're not, let me just, as a point of order, we're reviewing the Board of Education budget. And I hear what you're saying, Dan,
Yep.
and I don't disagree with you. I think that's, you know, Sean had a point. And when we reviewed the Board of Selectmen's budget, there was not an appetite to lower the budget. To Gary's point, they've taken the lion's share of cuts when we've had to do things in the past. I'd like to see what the Board of Education can do with this particular issue.
They're gonna want a dollar amount.
And here, so here's another perspective. And I did this at the Board of Selectmen meeting. So the Board of Finance, when Board of Selectmen presented. Assuming the $223,000 increase in capital is appropriate, the balance, if the school absorbs the 82,000 shortfall that we have right now, or reduces 82,000, the balance of the remaining 900 and change minus 223 would be split roughly 40% increase to the town, 60% increase to the school, which empirically feels right based on budgetary values, without getting into the particulars as to where it comes
It's actually 38%, 62%.
from. All right, there's somebody that was in front of a screen all day.
So Mike, if you're looking for the straight answer out of me, is I'm with Carl and I'm with Gary over there.
Sarah,
I agree.
Lou,
I agree as well.
and I agree. Oh. I think the Board of Ed did a fantastic job with their budget. We're in a situation where you know, if we can come in flat with the increases in what we've done in capital. If we can come in with a no real rate increase, we're gonna be in good shape. I think the townspeople are gonna really appreciate that. You know, do what you can do. And, let me just see what the schedule here.
Mike, will they have enough time? Will they have enough time for Wednesday?
It's
To
not
do
gonna be
that?
Wednesday.
Okay.
No, it's gonna be. Yeah, Wednesday would be, we're supposed to review the budget, all the budgets. You guys are gonna present to us next Wednesday. Any budget changes next Wednesday. We don't meet we don't meet Monday. We do? What?
That's a typo.
Is it?
Yeah, because Board of Finance reviews proposed budget.
That,
Where's the Board of Selectmen's budget? Say we
this
reviewed it,
is reviewed all the budgets.
But you're canceling, if we cancel that meeting, we're not gonna be able to review that. You have to get back to the Board of Selectmen tonight.
We've already given them to them. They don't have anything to do.
So
I don't think we did.
as the,
We said good job.
well, let's finish out the, let's finish out the Board of Ed
Sure.
guidance, and then we can decide if we have to meet on Wednesday or not.
Right.
That can be agenda item number 7.
So today's, yeah. So that's supposed to be a week.
Mike, do we need to formally ask that they go back and do that? Lower that, but go back and lower the budget? I mean, what do we need to tell them directly to do, or?
Yeah,
Because in the past, we've said lower your budget and they've come back and said, we're not gonna lower the budget.
Okay, okay.
I don't know.
We-
We did it on motions.
Yes.
Here you go.
I make a motion, we ask the Board of Education to come back with a revised budget reducing $82,000.
I
Well,
se-
let's
I
make it,
second.
let's,
Who's the right number? 81.
81,755.31 for the record.
I don't have a calculator with decimal places. It's captured in the softness of the number, Mike, but I'll go with it. As amended by Mike.
I second it.
Second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
That's 6-0.
I didn't vote for that.
You didn't?
Nope. 5. I'll abstain.
501. I thought you wouldn't.
Nope, I have my hand like this.
Okay.
Does that conclude our business for the Board of Ed? Do we need?
Yes, they can leave. We're all set, guys. If you guys want to retire, you may.
Just to be really clear, because we're talking schedule over there, you want to see us again on Wednesday, March 27th with any changes to our budget?
That's correct.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, where's my freaking agenda go? More minutes, right? All right, on to agenda item number 5, review of minutes. Amy, thank you for, by the way, for sending that one email with all of them in. So we have to, I didn't have to go back and look. First minutes for January 3rd, 2024. I did have some revisions there because I looked back at my notes, and because we reviewed the minutes from 6/28/2023, I had it at 501 for the voting because Lou had abstained. Because you weren't there in June. So that I would just say on 5, because Sarah left, that Winona was seated for her. January 3rd. So item 5, just Sarah Nelson dismissed, Winona seated. We reviewed the minutes from 6/28/2023. They were accepted 501 with Lou abstaining. And I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
Second by Carl,
For which date? Exactly.
January 3rd. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The next was from March 6th, 2024. Just because I'm a details person, I am the chairman of the board, not the chairman. And then on 6, on the minutes, the abstention due to absence, we usually would list who abstained by name, I think, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that was Lou was. Again, do you recall, Lou? Because I think you were not at
That meeting.
that meeting, the 221 meeting, what
Right.
I'd say, so I think it was Lou Gingerella abstained. That was the only correction there. So I make a motion to accept the March 6th, 2024 minutes as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining. I wasn't there.
Okay. One abstention. 501. With Sarah Nelson abstaining. On the March 11th, 2024, I had a question on the call to order, because Carl wasn't there. Did you get seated for him, Amy? No.
Nobody.
Okay. That's all I had then. So I will make a motion to accept the March 11, 2024 meetings as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
501 with Sarah Nelson abstaining. That's when we thought Sarah was missing in action. We're good. 2 meetings in a row. March 13, 2024 meeting minutes. I had no issue with them. I don't know. I'll entertain a motion to accept the March 13th, 2024 meetings as presented.
Second.
Second, from Gary. Any further discussion on that? Anyone else have any issues? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you, Amy.
You don't want to see if I did.
Next meeting is going to be canceled. Unless there's any issue, anybody not want to have, everyone wants to meet. Want to meet, Gary? At your place with some, my plan is to cancel the meeting unless you guys have an issue with it.
My children will thank you.
Okay, good. Okay,
So our next meeting then is
it's gonna be March 27th.
27th.
Yes, next Wednesday.
So.
Oh, yeah.
There's something on the 21st, right, with EDC? I'm only saying that just so the people that, because I forgot to put it on my calendar already.
That's a social function.
That's a Thursday night, I think. That's a Thursday night.
21st?
I'm sorry if I jumped over item number 6, public comment. Anybody? Brian? Anybody online?
Online. I have a public comment,
You can.
Brett Mastriani. Just to let you guys know also, since you're talking about calendar, on the 26th is the planning and zoning POCD presentation to the town where they solicit feedback based on that presentation to change the POCD
Where's that gonna be held?
here.
That's next Tuesday. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second,
All's in favor?
aye.
Aye.